Humans have built civilizations, reshaped almost every corner of Earth, and even explored outer space. But despite all that, one thing hasn't changed. We laugh, make friends, form families, and share stories. For thousands of years, we've tried to figure out what sets us apart from other living creatures. Scientists search for answers in our genes. Philosophers ponder human nature. And artists express it in their creations. So, what makes us human? How did evolution create beings that think, feel, and create? The answer might surprise you. It could be something we usually see as our enemy: viruses. One of the survivors of the asteroid apocalypse millions of years ago was the ancestor of mammals, a small, furry, mouse-like creature that only came up at night when predators were not around. Its body was similar to modern mammals, except for one thing: it didn't have a placenta. Yeah, the organ that houses babies for months, provides nutrients, and protects against diseases. Without the placenta, a human baby's development would not be possible. Enter retroviruses. These viruses don't just infect cells. They leave an inedible mark on the cells they infect. Their structure is simple: a protective envelope to help them sneak into cells, a protein shell for backup protection, some chemicals to speed up reactions, and their genetic material. Think of it like their profile book. Here's how they work. Once a retrovirus finds the right cell, it latches on and injects its genetic material. Then, this material gets copied and inserted into the cell's own library of instructions, known as chromosomes. Think of the cell as a library filled with books that describe everything about your body. The retrovirus slips in its own book, adding it to the collection. The results can go in a few different directions. The cell might break down, churn up more retroviruses, and explode, spreading the virus everywhere. Or nothing might happen at all. The virus's genes would just sit there quietly, becoming part of the cell. If the infected cell happens to be involved in reproduction, the virus's genetic imprint can be passed down to future generations. That's exactly what happened to our mammal ancestors millions of years ago. In the year 2000, a group of scientists in the US discovered a mysterious gene in human DNA. This gene helps form cells in the placenta responsible for transferring nutrients, gases, and waste between the mother and the fetus. But this gene is not human. It's viral. And it's not just humans who have it. Chimpanzees, monkeys, even mice share it. Scientists concluded that the retrovirus infected our ancestors and left this genetic legacy. Over time, it became not only harmless, but incredibly useful. And this was not a one-time event. Retroviral genes have integrated into our DNA dozens of times, shaping what makes us human. So yeah, without viruses, humans might not be the way we are today. And if that sounds wild, there's an even crazier theory. Every cell in our bodies might have originated from viruses. How come? Well, the nucleus of our cells resembles certain viruses. This has led some scientists to hypothesize that way back then, viruses infected the ancestors of all life on Earth and helped form the cell nucleus. So, viruses helped mammals develop a placenta, which allowed for more advanced brain development, ultimately creating modern humans. But where did viruses themselves come from? Actually, that is still a mystery. The first evidence of viruses came from a Russian scientist studying a disease in tobacco plants. The disease caused mosaic-like patterns on the leaves. At first, he thought that bacteria were to blame. But when he filtered the sap to remove all bacteria, the sap could still infect other plants. His conclusion: something smaller than bacteria was causing the disease. A few years later, a Dutch biologist did similar experiments, independently reaching the same conclusion. He found that the mysterious agent could reproduce inside living plant cells, and he named it virus. Since then, scientists have debated where viruses come from. First, there's the progressive theory. Okay, to keep things simple, let's use a Lego analogy. This theory suggests viruses started as small bits of genetic material, just like Lego pieces, that assembled into something bigger. And then there's the regressive theory. Now we're doing the opposite. Imagine a car being taken apart piece by piece. In this case, a larger cell might have broken down and its parts became independent viruses. To this day, the origins of viruses remain hotly debated, with some scientists believing they may have multiple origins. The story is still unfolding with every new discovery. But it's not just their origin that's puzzling. Their very identity is in question. Like, are viruses even alive? Since their discovery, viruses have been called many things: poison, biological particles, even chemicals. But they are rarely classified as living organisms. That's because they need a host to live. If every living thing on Earth disappeared, viruses would disappear too. They can only replicate inside a host cell. Outside of one, they're inactive. Then came the discovery of giant viruses. One of them, called virus, is the size of bacteria or even larger. It's more complex than regular viruses, with way more genes. And some viruses, trapped in ice for thousands of years, have even been revived due to global warming. These giants are not harmful to humans, but are fascinating because they can themselves be infected by smaller viruses. This has led some scientists to argue that if viruses can get sick, they might qualify as living things. Of course, many others disagree. But yeah, we now know that there are big and small viruses. But how small are they really? Imagine a grain of sand. In one handful, there are hundreds of thousands of grains. Now, imagine each grain is a skyscraper. A red blood cell is the size of a two-story house next to it. A bacterium, the size of a person. The giant virus that we talked about earlier is just about the size of a table. And the tiniest viruses, they're smaller than a marble. Okay, back to the grain of sand. Inside just one grain, there could be hundreds of billions of viruses. That's right, viruses outnumber the stars in the sky. If you lined up every virus on Earth, the chain would stretch beyond our atmosphere, past the moon, through the solar system, and across 1,000 Milky Way galaxies. Mind-blowing, isn't it? Thinking of viruses as just villains or threats is a huge misunderstanding. Viruses play a role in killing bacteria, and the remains of these bacteria become food for the biggest oxygen producers on Earth, plankton. They are also part of the carbon cycle and provide nutrients for organisms in the soil. Even in our bodies, there are billions of tiny viruses helping us fight off harmful bacteria. And because they can sneak their genes into the species they infect, viruses have left their mark on all forms of life. In fact, almost 10% of the human genome comes from ancient viruses. This incredible ability to integrate into our DNA has even turned viruses into sources of genetic innovation. One virologist even said that when viruses infect cells, it doesn't look like a battle. It's more like a dance. They influence each other's evolution, just like two partners learning new moves together. This dance between human cells and viruses might make us rethink who we are. Because it turns out, our DNA is a collaboration between humans and viruses. And the impact of viruses isn't just felt by humans. They're like threads that connect every branch of their ecosystem. That's why we need to recognize their existence and learn more about them. Maybe, by doing so, we can better survive the tiny war happening in our bodies every second. Or maybe, we'll discover something new that leads to better healthcare solutions. Viruses might be some of the smallest creatures, invisible to the naked eye. But these microscopic creatures hold a gigantic role in the intricate web of life.